Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Welcome to episode 9 of the Mystery Movie Reviews. Depending on what happens in the next week or so, this might be the last mystery review. However, it might not. It all depends on what happens next week and events after that. Because I am going to be in the process of moving next week, I just want you all to know straight up that there will be no streams at all. Next week, there will be very little content in the week to come because I am moving and it's going to be a very fast and a very busy process. So if you do not see any content from me, it is because, well, I can't get any content out because I am so busy. So next week, do not panic if I don't do any streams. That is by design because I am going to be moving and I got a lot of calls to make. I have to inform a lot of people of an address change and all of that. And yes, while it can get done in a day, setting up things at a new place is also going to take a lot of my time. But hopefully I will be done or inside of that week so I can get more content out to you the following week. Now, thank you all for understanding that. Now let's get on to this mystery review. As you all know, I gave 2 hints, both on social media and in the description of this video, or of the stream. The hints were, it is a 1990s movie with swords, and it is a Disney movie that has no problem with adult content. Now, there were some people who took close guesses, and obviously my friend Mara Jade already knew because I like passing ideas to her about it and whatnot. So she's kind of like a silent partner when it comes to the mystery reviews. So big shout out to Jade Shadow, Mara Jade, for helping me with certain things on the mystery reviews. Now, this one, if you guys haven't figured it out, a couple of people actually one person, Biggles, I believe it was, mentioned, Biggles Metz, by the way, he mentioned A Kid in King Arthur's Court, and I'm like, close, pretty close, good guess. Medieval times, swords, a little bit of a adult theme here and there, but not quite the one that I'm thinking, or not quite the one that I did, or watched, and reviewed, and is getting ready to do the mystery review on. This one stars Kiefer Sutherland, Oliver Platt, Charlie Sheen, Chris O'Donnell, Tim Curry, Michael Wincott, Rebecca De Mornay, Gabrielle M. Moir, and that is basically all the big names that I could think of in this movie. And at the time, they were the names back in Hollywood. These were top names in Hollywood. Well, Chris O'Donnell was still young, getting his name out there. But yeah, these are some top names in Hollywood nowadays and legends from the 90s. This movie is The Three Musketeers. How you doing, Jade Shadow? Thank you. I see you lurking. So yes, The Three Musketeers from Disney. Now again, I reiterate, this movie does have adult themes in it. This movie has content that is very suggestive in a sexual nature. This movie is a swashbuckling romance action movie. And I absolutely find the hilarity of Oliver Platt in this movie to be top notch. I have yet to see an Oliver Platt movie where he is joking around and having fun that he is not funny in. This movie did great work with the cast, did great directing, and I gotta say, the cinematography, the location, the setting, the story, the writing, it was all well done. even from an objective standpoint. And believe me, these are movies that you would think you would see a multitude of mistakes if you're looking for them. Well, the thing is, you might, sure, but only if you're looking for them. So, I got my talking points here, my notes. In the beginning of this movie, where it establishes the dark hypocrisy of Cardinal Richelieu, it was really well shot. It really sets the tone of this movie. It's not going same as what Mara said, lurking. Okay, thank you, Biggles. This movie really sets the tone with the dark and dark in both mood and setting, where you see Richelieu being carried through into the dungeons on a boat. He has his armor still on because this was a cardinal who was also on the front during the war with England, or the coming war with England. He wanted to make sure that the battles were he wanted to make sure that the armies of France were basically knowing that God was on their side. Now, Richelieu in real history is actually is somewhat different from Richelieu in this movie. They needed a person who, at the time of this movie's setting, based on the novel, would have been a good villain. And Richelieu just happened to take the cake, and they cast the perfect person to play Cardinal Richelieu, Tim Curry. Now, setting him up basically establishes him in a very villainous way. He goes up to or you're going through this area where people are being tortured, where people are sick. Dungeons back in the medieval days, you got sick, you basically were never seeing the light of day again, because those were times of plagues and other very, they didn't know how to treat sicknesses as much as they do nowadays. And you see one of the dungeon master or the dungeon keeper, the big bald guy, you see that he has leprosy. And yeah, this movie did not hold back. This is a Disney movie. And even I saw this movie in theaters when I was 8 years old, 1993. And I'm like, wow, this is funny. This is adventurous. This is exciting. And believe it or not, no joke, the last time I saw this movie, I was in single digits age. So over 20 years ago was the last time I saw this movie, before I saw it yesterday and the day before, so that I could actually create or do this review for you all. And to watch it from a child standpoint to an adult standpoint, you see or you understand the more adult themes that were in this movie, because there are lines in this movie that you don't quite understand as a kid, but as an adult, you're like, oh, damn. So, Cardinal Richelieu has a man killed for defacing his carriage and stealing some of the valuables inside. And the guy says, please, in the name of God, I beg you for mercy. And he's like, very well, in the name of God. And so the guy thinks that he's going to have mercy shown. Well, the cardinal then looks to Michael Wincott's character, Rochefort, and Rochefort draws his sword and kills the guy. One less mouth to feed. This is a great character moment for Richelieu, because this establishes just how evil this guy can be. He'll kill a person, yet he'll make them think, or he'll have a person killed, but at first he'll make them think that they're going to live. That's evil. Very evil. So then they go to, where was it? The character of D'Artagnan, into a nice layout in the country where he's having a sword duel with a man named Gerard. And Gerard is basically hating D'Artagnan because he caught him and his sister, or D'Artagnan and Gerard's sister, doing something that was suggestive of a kiss or of a romantic entanglement. And, well, Gerard took it the wrong way, according to D'Artagnan. He tells him, nothing happened. And he's like, I know what I saw. Well, look, I told her I was going to Paris. She wanted to give me something to remember her by. And it shows that, or they have a nice back and forth. All they want to do is get to Paris and join the Musketeers. So D'Artagnan has set up, he wants to be a Musketeer. Not a bad goal back in that day. I mean, it's a very honorable position. And so Gerard mocks him, and he's like, you a Musketeer? It's a fantasy. My father was a Musketeer, the king's personal bodyguard. The king was assassinated. Your father was a failure and a disgrace to the Musketeers. Well, that sets off D'Artagnan, and he disarms Gerard. My brothers will avenge me. And he drops down to his knees, and it's like, already? Because his brothers are already on horseback, four of them coming at him. It's like, oh, shit. So the chase in the woods, this chase scene was very well done. It had great stunt work. It had great setup with the chase of how D'Artagnan causes a bunch of problems in the people around him to derail the pursuit. But Gerard is still in pursuit because he was the one behind them, because his horse also took off because he's an idiot. But I do love how near the end of the pursuit, they're on a roadway, and D'Artagnan sees that he's going to have to jump over a hill, or a small hillock, which is also a kind of bridge area. And how he jumps up and then gets back on the horse, keeps going. Well, you see the stunt riders standing on their horses able to do this. Now, when you see Chris O'Donnell and what was his name? The other actor. 19, yes, that's it. Gerard. Paul McGann. Jacques Gerard. Yeah, when you see him and Chris O'Donnell stand up, that's not Chris O'Donnell, and that's not Paul McGann. Those are actually stunt riders, because when you're standing on the back of a horse getting ready to do a stunt, they would not be putting the actors in that position, because there can be a lot of serious problems. When people fall off horses, they can get seriously injured. A lot of people do not realize this. My aunt broke her back falling off a horse one time. And yeah, she used to love riding horses. I know a friend who broke his leg one time when a horse fell and he was still on the horse. The horse landed on his leg, shattering his lower leg, disconnecting the knee, and splitting the femur in two. His leg was badly injured. I mean, he has a permanent limp now. And it's like, oh, damn. So yeah, understanding that in certain cuts, the way that they cut this film to let people know that, well, what you're seeing here is you're seeing the actors pretending they're on horses by moving their bodies to make it look like they're on a horse, where the stunt riders, when it shows the person standing on the horse, those are stunt riders. It's a very well done shot, and you can't clearly see the stunt rider's face. So it is clever cutting. So Chris O'Donnell's character is able to do it successfully. Then Gerard does it. He runs in front. As soon as he jumps off the horse stops underneath the hillock. And it's like, and then he's like, yeah! And just falls on his ass, which is hilarious. This movie has a lot of hilarious moments. And Paul McGann, how he played his character of Gerard, I'll get you, D'Artagnan! It's like, oh my God, dude. The way that he had that very effeminate continuance of D'Artagnan, it's like, D'Artagnan! It's hilarious. And it is like, oh my gosh, man. It's just a great scene. So then, obviously, D'Artagnan continues on to Paris. This small side plot with Gerard and his brothers is humorous and it's well established. It just gives you something to, or it's going to be something that is a repetitive thing in this movie, but also very well done. It's not repeated in the same way. It's just that it's establishing that this is a person who really has it out for D'Artagnan over his sister just, I guess, giving him a peck on the cheek. It suggested that it was just an innocent gesture of friendship. So anyway, the next scene is the disbanding of the Musketeers, and Michael Wincott's character Rochefort is in the Musketeer headquarters, and the Cardinal's guards cut down the Musketeer flag and then burn it. And then he comes out and says, by royal edict, the Musketeers are disbanded, and the Cardinal's guards are taking over the protection of the king. So Michael Wincott's character as Lieutenant Rochefort is actually very well done. This character, or Wincott's voice, how it's very how it's very low and raspy-ish kind of. It just is the perfect voice, you know? And how he taunts the Musketeers. And he says, "You are ordered to disperse. If any one of you should resist, the entire corps will be arrested and imprisoned." And they all look, they're like, "What?" And then he delivers that last line, "All for one and one for all," a mocking gesture of the Musketeers by using their motto. And it is a great way of establishing that this person possibly was a musketeer at one point, because, well, he does have the looks of it, and he also does have the countenance, how he just carries himself, really. And we may learn more about that later on. His character is just that well put together. They really did a wonderful job with the character building of each character in this movie that matters. And Rochefort is actually one of my favorite Disney villains, even though he's only in one movie and that's it. It's because Michael Wincott played him in such a great way. This is not me just saying that. This is me literally meaning that. He is one of my favorite villains because Michael Wincott, he's the guy that had such a cool voice as a kid when you're a kid. And it's like, God, man, I wish I could be just as cool as he, you know, just because of his voice. But even now, later on, Michael Wincott in this movie, he still has that cool air about him, you know? So, yeah, then Richelieu comes up and he's like, "The Musketeers are finished now." He's like, "Not entirely. There are three. I sent a patrol. They haven't come back yet. I want these Musketeers, not excuses." So, yeah, and then he's like, no loose ends, Lieutenant Rochefort. So when he cuts the candles, there's a scene where he cuts 3 candles and tips them over. He goes, "Athos, Porthos, Aramis. The 3 Musketeers." Now, it's a very fun parallel because this actually is a very odd, and it's an odd parallel setup is what I call it, because when D'Artagnan meets the 3 Musketeers, he meets them literally in that order: Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. So the next scene basically has let's see here. Right. It has D'Artagnan arriving in Paris, and he sees 2 women being allegedly chased by some men on horseback. And so he figures, I'm going to help these women. Maybe I might get something out of it, you know? D'Artagnan is young. He's adventurous. He's prone to making the wrong choices, and he's prone to thinking one thing when it's really another because, well, he's adventurous. He wants to be right. So he knocks out these men, and so the two women come back, and one of them pulls a gun on him. It's like, do you have any idea what you've done? Yeah, I just saved you and your friend from these bandits. These bandits were the Queen's personal bodyguards. It's like, the Queen? I had no idea. And the Queen is the one laughing about it, and so she carries on because, well, you really should not stay out in the open. Queens were targets back then, especially when it came to coming wars. And her lady in waiting, who was played by, what's her name? Julie Delpy, I believe. Yep, Julie Delpy, who you see in many movies. You actually see her in a Marvel movie, Age of Ultron, when Widow is having her spell in her head. She's the one that is telling her about the graduation ceremony and how it's necessary, and how, or she was the trainer of the girls. But she's also in movies like An American Werewolf in Paris. She plays the chick. And, yeah, she's actually a good actor. She actually has a lot of range, you know? And she immediately really has a liking to D'Artagnan. And D'Artagnan plays the flirt with her. It's like, would that please you? A lady in waiting is not allowed to consort with musketeers. Well, I'm not a musketeer yet. Well, or with that attitude, you will be soon enough. And she's like, thank you, D'Artagnan, for the fun. I enjoyed it immensely. And he's like, wait, I didn't get your name. She calls back, Constance. And so he's like, Constance. Nice little setup there. Now, his arrival at Musketeer headquarters, there's a bug in here. His arrival at Musketeer headquarters, this is something that I do find was a bit odd, but also well done to the character. He is so adventurous, and he's looking up in admiration at the Musketeer headquarters because he finally arrived in Paris. He does not notice the burnt tunics on the ground. And I'm like, oh man, you should be, or you're young, you're prone to missing a few details. So he gets in, he realizes that, or he sees the place as a mess, and he sees one person. And Kiefer Sutherland is that person, Athos. Now, he doesn't know that this is Athos or that he's a musketeer. He just is asking, is this Musketeer headquarters? They draw because, well, he didn't know if it was a threat. No, this was Musketeer headquarters. Oh, it's been moved? No, the Musketeers have been disbanded. They no longer exist. Feel free to poke around for souvenirs if you wish. And Kiefer Sutherland's about to leave, and he's like, but I just got here. How am I supposed to become a musketeer if they've been disbanded? I'd say you have quite a problem. So D'Artagnan, in his young arrogance, is really not going to let this pass. He feels that he's been slighted. He's like, you're not being very helpful. And he grabs his arm, or Athos's arm, like this. Young guns with swords. In a way, yes. In a way, exactly, Blake. Young Guns is also a great duology. I mean, those movies were freaking top notch. But when he grabs him, he's like, you're not being very, you need to listen to manners, boy. Anytime. Meet me outside Paris by the ruins, let's say noon. I'll be there. So Athos has been met, and then he leaves Musketeer headquarters, and Gerard and his brothers bandaged it up, or one's bandaged around the head, one has a broken arm or an injured arm, and the others are pretty, or still kind of well rounded, or not showing any visible injury. And then there's Gerard, and he's like, there he is. So there's another chase, and he bumps into a nice little meat area where people are drinking outside, and he spills a few drinks on him, and there's one guy, excuse me, stands up, it's all flat. This sash was a gift to me from the Queen of America. There's no Queen of America. I beg to differ, infant. We're on quite intimate terms unless you can prove otherwise. Now, as a kid, I had no idea what intimate meant. So it was just a throwaway line to me. But yeah, there's a woman who claims to be the Queen of America that gives him a sash, and he's like, here's my proof. And he pulls his sword, and he's like, oh, I see. It's Twitter the month. Come to challenge the mighty Porthos. Think he's lightning with a sword. The mighty who? Don't tell me you've never heard of me. Freaking the way that Oliver Platt plays Porthos. Oliver Platt plays Porthos. Yeah, say that 15 times fast. Oh my God, man. That plays Porthos. I can't do it. The way that Oliver Platt plays Porthos is just freaking awesome. And he's like, don't tell me you've never heard of me. He is egotistical, man. It's a great thing for Oliver Platt's characters. The world's biggest windbag. And I just love the next thing. He's like, little pimple. Meet me behind the Luxembourg at 1 o'clock and bring a long wooden box. Bring your own. I just love how Porthos is freaking, yes, exactly. Platt's best role besides Lake Placid. He has some other great roles. I actually liked him in Bicentennial Man. But yes, freaking Porthos and the doctor from Lake Placid is just freaking awesome. Or not the doctor, but the expert, so to speak. And yes, he was great in that movie, even though that movie sucks, but it was a great movie still, nonetheless. He made it good. But yeah, so then it cuts to another Musketeer, Aramis. Now, I do want to go over a couple of things here before I do continue on to Charlie Sheen's area, or introduction. Athos is a well-written and portrayed character because he is a serious character. He's one that took his job seriously as a musketeer, and he just can't let go of the slight by the Cardinal and Rochefort of having them disbanded. He was not there for the disbanding, but he was, or he's not going to take that lying down. This is the kind of character that Athos is. He's mysterious, but he's serious. And it's one that I can truly admire in a person because he's not one to be taken lightly. But he is one that does also have humor. And he is one that allows humor, you know? When he's with his friends, he can be humorous. Now, Porthos, obviously, it's Oliver Platt. You can't go wrong with that. He can be comical, but he can also be serious when needed. And you do see him do some serious parts in this movie. But most of it, life is a party with Porthos. And it's absolutely well done. Now, Charlie Sheen playing a freaking Cardinal student. I'm like, really? That is just because him being introduced, he's teaching a young woman about theology, and he's teaching her about original sin. So she gets impassioned and she starts kissing him, and he's like, well, there shouldn't be any problem with that. I mean, we should embrace exploring our spirituality. And so they start making out, and a guy starts beating on the door. My husband, you're married? Yes, I'm married. We should pray for our sins. And so the guy is Cardinal's guard. He comes in, shoots and misses. He's like, on second thought, God's awfully busy. So, it was a great little thing. So the wife is trying to stop her husband from killing Aramis. Yes. Missed, but I'll get it next time. I'll get you, D'Artagnan. Yes, I just named a fly D'Artagnan. But anyway, he escapes and he jumps on D'Artagnan. And it's like, oh, thank you. You broke my fall perfectly. I do apologize for any inconvenience. Get off me! One thing I can't abide is rudeness. You fell on me, and I apologize for it. Well, your apology's not accepted. Gosh, D'Artagnan is very arrogant in this movie, but it's a great character setup. He's like, I hope your sword's as quick as your mouth. It's quicker. Ah, a duel then. And he's like, a duel. Meet me behind the La Rochelle at 2 o'clock. I'll be there, as will I. And it's like, they all call it different things. The La Rochelle Monastery, the ruins, the Luxembourg, all at noon, 1 o'clock, and 2 o'clock. He's like, 3 duels in one day. Now, then after these three establishments, then we get into the royalty, where you are introduced to the Queen, Cardinal Richelieu, or you see that he has affections towards the Queen. And she's actually done, or Gabrielle Anwar played a very great Queen Anne, because these were two, or King and Queen, who were young. And she plays a very young and yet unsure character. But throughout the movie, she does become more of herself, you know? And the Cardinal counsels her, but is also, you just see that he desires her. The way that he is looking right straight down at her boobs basically tells you that he wants her, and he's also saying that, or does counsel her in some ways. Arranged marriages can be difficult. Your father and I felt that Austria and France would bring us, or a marriage between you and the king would bring us closer together, Austria and France, that is. And so he's trying to woo her in some ways. And that's when the king, played by Hugh O'Connor, comes in. Now, the kid at this time, Hugh O'Connor was younger. He actually looks like he could have been King Louis XIII. The way his nose just, yeah. Excuse me. So, sorry for anybody with earphones in. But yes, he comes in and he's like, Cardinal Richelieu, I was looking for you, Your Eminence, or Your Majesty. And he didn't know that his wife was here. He's like, Anne, I didn't know you were here. Would you like me to go? No, 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 please stay. Your Eminence, I demand an answer, if only I knew the question. I just heard that you went ahead and disbanded the Musketeers. And he's like, you approved of of the decision, yes, but not the timing. These men were more than just my personal bodyguards. They were my friends. I wanted to explain the situation to them. Now, the Cardinal tries weaseling his way out of it, but Louis actually does a wonderful job in rebuffing it and reminding him, I am the king. I will decide what is best for me and for France. Okay, if this is who I think it is, folks, I'm going to have to mute for a couple minutes. Please just be patient. Okay, it wasn't who I thought it was, thank God, because that would just be a real pain in the ass. Um, where was I? Ah, yes. The king just basically handed Cardinal Richelieu his ass, and in words only, basically exuding who is in control. And you actually see Gabrielle in Moore's character, the Queen, how she smiles at her husband, how he is projecting strength. And this is, remember, at the time, this is a child. He is like 17 or whatever. He's young. He is not yet king because the cardinal rules France. Now when the king becomes 18, that is when he assumes control over France. So in the next scene, you see the cardinal talking to Rochefort and basically establishing that he hates the king. He's becoming as arrogant as his father and whatnot. And it's like, have our loose ends been tied up? 3 patrols have been sent. I trust, Captain Rochefort, that you are doing everything in your power to rid us of these rebels. Don't let the loss of one eye impair your vision. The loss of the other could be most inconvenient. Basically, he's telling Rochefort, if you continue fucking up, you're going to lose your other eye and become a blind fool. So yes, this is also establishing that Cardinal Richelieu will freaking cast aside a very valuable asset if it fails again. And I absolutely love that because it's a reinforcement of character. It's letting you know that this character is dangerous because, well, he is powerful. At the time, Cardinal Richelieu was the ruler of France. But he is basically a ruler or a temporary ruler because the king was not old enough yet. Now, then Rochefort confronting the 3 Musketeers in a pub area this scene was actually very good in advancing the story with small details of a bigger puzzle. Now, a lot of people, or the first piece of the puzzle was that D'Artagnan's father was a musketeer. D'Artagnan wants to go to join the Musketeers. Well, then, people won't put together at the moment that that is a piece of a puzzle. Now, then there is another piece of a puzzle that the Cardinals guards come in and they're like, what is this? Because there's a bunch of Cardinals guards that are knocked out and tied up and whatnot. They're like, we were having a private party celebrating the demise of the Musketeers. Go away. You're under arrest. On whose authority? Mine. And he comes in and is like, hello again, Cyclops. You only see Athos and Aramis. But you can expect that Porthos is there somewhere. And he's like, what? So, when was the last time we had the pleasure of his company? I believe it was when he was cast out of the Musketeers, conduct on becoming a Musketeer. That was the charge, was it not? He's like, you should know. 3 of you stood against me. It was the least we can do. You are hereby ordered to surrender your tunics and your commissions, swords, for those of you who don't know the parlance, at once. You can, of course, refuse, become outlaws, hunted men. Why not come along quietly, for old time's sake? And that's when Porthos brings down the house. He jumps on a chandelier and just cuts it and crushes the Cardinal's guard. Rochefort gets out of the way, and he sorry, I had to unplug my laptop. It's at 100%. So he's like, did I miss anyone? Well done, Porthos. You brought down the house. Drat. I was trying to hit Rochefort. So they corner Rochefort. It's like, you go back and tell the Cardinal that we will continue to do our sworn duty, which is protecting the king. And we will do everything in our power to stop him. Brave words. I look forward to ramming them down your throat. And I just love that. Hey, Phil, how you doing? Before you ask, it is The 3 Musketeers from 1993, the Disney one, with Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, and Oliver Platt and whatnot. So, Then you just expect the line from Oliver Platt, Rochefort. Isn't that a smelly kind of cheese? It's just the perfect freaking line from Oliver Platt. Now, there is actually a stinky cheese out there. I believe it's called a Roquefort, and it's French. So, yeah, there's a smelly cheese, or there's lots of smelly cheeses out there. I need to watch that movie. This movie is a great movie, and I am going to be going into it in detail. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, make sure you leave a like on your way out. But if you don't mind spoilers, that's fine. So then it goes back to D'Artagnan making his way to the ruins, and the duels. It's like, oh my gosh. So Athos is there waiting for him. He's like, your manners have not improved yet. You're late. You want to hurry to die? Here come the gravediggers now. And it's Porthos and Aramis. He's like, Athos, you cannot fight this boy. Why not? I'm fighting him. Not until 1 o'clock. I will duel with him too. Not until 2 o'clock. And he looks at Aramis with a lot more disdain because Aramis actually did freaking fall on him. So I was like, well, then let's get it on with it then. We don't want you late for your future engagements. And they all disrobe into their tunics, their musketeer tunics. You're a musketeer? You're all musketeers? I've been looking all over for you. You choose your opponents well, or rather very foolishly. I've been looking all over for you. Well, you found us. Or now you found us. Now we have a little business to attend to, unless you would like to postpone it to a further date. He's like, no, I'm a man of honor, but let's just say that killing you will bring me no pleasure. And the arrogance of the kid. He's very arrogant, D'Artagnan, and that is part of his charm. That is part of his character, and it is done so well. In some ways, and in other ways, not so much. But anyway, he's like, ooh, he's a feisty fellow. Feisty indeed. Porthos and Aramis, Charlie Sheen and Oliver Platt, they work off of each other very well. I mean, those two were perfectly cast to be in these roles, and they just played off of each other very freaking well done. So they draw, and then the Cardinals guards, led by the same guy that was in the pub who had a freaking chandelier dropped on him, is like, there they are. Only a fool would try to arrest us twice in one day. You're under arrest. Porthos and Aramis look at each other. A fool. They both say it together. I'm like, oh my God, a fool. And the boy's of no interest to me. He's free to go. Do you intend quietly, or do you wish to come quietly, or do you intend to resist? And Porthos, of course. Well, don't be so stupid. Of course we intend to resist. Just give us a second, all right? Freaking Oliver Platt, man. He is just such a joy in this movie. 5 of them, 3 of us hardly seems fair. And then you see him push D'Artagnan because D'Artagnan gets up in there. And he's like, we should give that, or Charlie Sheen, perhaps we should give him a chance to surrender. Excuse me, but there's 4 of us. This is not your fight. You're not a musketeer. I may not wear the tunic, but I believe I have the heart of a musketeer. Warrior, poet. You got a name, boy? D'Artagnan. This is where the 3 look at each other knowingly. Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. Pleasure, but hello, pleasure. Nice to meet you again, and whatnot. And so they're like, everybody acquainted? Now we are prepared to resist you. So that was a second piece of the puzzle, or a third piece of the puzzle. They all know him by his name. After he gives his name, they all know who he is. They all know, well, who he is born to, rather. Because D'Artagnan was named after his father, D'Artagnan. Now, his father, D'Artagnan, was also a musketeer. Now, the choreography of this fight by the ruins, with all of them, where Aramis is taking on 2 of them, Athos takes on 1, everybody else takes on 1. Chris O'Donnell is taking on the head of the troop of Cardinals guards. You could tell that they swing high because I'm like, you guys really do swing high on these things. So a little bit of the duel is not well done, but it is also very well done. You see how this is a very swashbuckling action movie, and I love the action in this movie because it shows, or it really is a nice. One second. Okay, this window is closed. That's good. Just making sure. Yeah, they're weed whacking outside, so it might get a little loud. Well, they're actually closer than they anticipated. But anyway, so the duel actually goes very well, and you see Porthos. Porthos is more than a musketeer. He is all sorts of different things. And when he has one guy, this guy is extremely focused. The guy that's fighting Porthos just doesn't change emotion. His face is just stapled on focus, you know? And it is really well done. So when he does a riposte upward and has a blade lock, he brings up another blade, splits it in three, or jams it up there, and then splits the other guy's sword. And he's just looking at him like, and so the guy tries running, and he's like, pulls out some bolas, whips him around, throws him. It breaks the dude's nose, and he's like, God, I love my work. Freaking. I cannot say enough how much Oliver Platt is just freaking hilarious in this movie. Every scene he is in, it is just nothing but hilarity. And a lot of people might say, well, this movie is a bit more serious. It's like, it's a Disney movie. You got to allow the comedy to take place because this movie is just that good. And don't ever try to hold back Oliver Platt. You will fail. So everybody wins their respective duels, and D'Artagnan literally climbs the ruins with his opponent and smacks his opponent's sword to where he loses balance and falls. And they're all like, take a look at our young friend. Oh my God, he's still alive. And while Athos and Aramis are saying this, you see Porthos looking up. He's just winding up his bolas that he just threw at the other guy. It's like, oh my God, dude. So then after the fight is over, you see Aramis giving last rites to the fallen Cardinal's guards. And it's explained by Athos, or Aramis is doing this, but Athos explains to D'Artagnan, he's like, what's he doing? Last rites. Aramis takes death very seriously. Is he a priest? He was one of the cardinal, or he used to be one of the cardinal's students. So that does set up a scene later on where Aramis and the cardinal actually do talk. So then, as they're getting ready to leave, Porthos is like, you, boy, are arrogant, hot-tempered, and entirely too bold. I like that. Reminds me of me. Don't encourage him by helping us. The boy's made himself an outlaw as well. He should leave Paris at once. I can't just leave. I just got here. Go home. Find a wench. Live or make fat babies and live a good long life. It's like, wow. Okay. There you go. So it's like, what about the motto of the Musketeers? All for one and one for all. Wake up, the boy. Musketeers are just a dream. I mean, Athos basically is trying to save this kid, but he needs to tell him in a harsh way to try to get him to be put off. Well, while he gets on his horse, more Cardinal's guards plus Rochefort finds him. And what does this idiot do, D'Artagnan? Long live the Musketeers. So this tells Rochefort, all right, I'll take care of this one, because he hates the Musketeers with such ferocity. And he knocks D'Artagnan off his sword, and he is now later knocked out, put in jail. My sword. It's magnificent. Now, the sword of D'Artagnan is a golden or gold-laid musketeer sword around the basket hilt, because that is the swords that they use, basket hilt swords. Pretty much rapier styles with basket hilt. But anyway, he's like, it's magnificent. Where did you steal it? It belonged to my father. Your father? Well, now it belongs to me. I collect swords, you see, from men I've killed. I ain't dead yet. You and the Musketeers are responsible for the killings of the Cardinal's guards, an offense punishable by death. They interrupted a duel we were fighting, a deed also punishable by death. It's been a busy day. Give me back, or tell me where I can find the Musketeers, and I'll give you your father's sword. And more arrogance from D'Artagnan. Give me my father's sword, and I'll cut out your heart. So he knocks him out and says, idiot, or calls him an idiot. He's like your father. So this establishes another piece of the puzzle. Michael Wincott knows who this boy's father is, without even knowing his name, possibly because he looks a lot like his father. So then he's ordered to take, or somebody was ordered to take D'Artagnan below into the cells. D'Artagnan does wake up from getting smacked and knocks out that person and finds a secret meeting between Rebecca de Mornay's Lady de Winter. God, Rebecca de Mornay was freaking hot back then, I gotta tell you. But you don't really... Again, child comparison to adult comparison, this entire scene between Rebecca de Mornay and Tim Curry's Richelieu and Countess de Winter. He's like, or the lines in this scene were very well delivered, but they were also very well written, so that kids would not understand exactly what he meant and whatnot, but they, on some level, do understand what's going on. Where the Cardinal is basically a very lustful man. I mean, he is not really worthy of the position of Cardinal. He just has a lot of sexual urges. Anyway, he's like, your beauty makes even the most chaste men have thoughts of impurity. And she even says it. It's like, I don't believe you suffered the burn of chastity. Perhaps not. And yeah, it's... Back then, I didn't understand what that meant as a kid. But nowadays, it's like, basically she's saying, you're not a chaste person. I'm pretty sure you have somebody that you're tapping on the side. So he goes to make an advance on her boobs because they're out there. So she pulls a knife at his nut, level to his nuts. She's like, I was making an observation, not an offer. A word of caution, lady. One snap of my fingers and you'll be back on the street corner where I found you. And with a flick of my wrist, I could change your religion. I'm like, whoa, from cardinal to eunuch. I like it. But she got him to back off. So then the mission is Finch's mother. Finch's mother? Who's Finch? Please explain, Blake. But anyway, D'Artagnan is watching this whole back and forth between Cardinal Richelieu and Countess de Winter about how he's making an alliance with England and that she must deliver a treaty to him by going to Calais and the Persephone Tuesday, or it leaves Tuesday at midnight. His signature must be on the treaty before the king's birthday. And in doing so, you shall have the gratitude of a king. Until that day, your eminence, or should I say, your majesty. Majesty sounds good. The way that Tim Curry plays Cardinal Richelieu is so freaking well done. He's just slimy. Anyway, but yes, De Mornay is Finch's mom in American Pie 4 Reunion. I've never seen those movies, to be 100% honest. So yeah. But thank you for letting me know that information. So then Michael Wincott, or Rochefort, catches D'Artagnan and brings him in before the cardinal, and he's like, "Kneel. Were you taught no respect for a man of God?" He's like, "How much did you overhear, boy?" "Very little, from the whispering in the cells, or the noise from the cells." "What's your name?" "D'Artagnan." And now even the cardinal recognizes that name. So he looks at Rochefort, and Rochefort, ever so slightly, just runs his finger by his left eye, which is covered by an eye patch. He's like, "Ah, yes, your father was a musketeer. He died while protecting the king," is what D'Artagnan was told. He was killed while protecting the king. He's like, "Ah, yes, the goal of every warrior, to die nobly for king and country. So, what brings you to Paris, D'Artagnan?" "I came to join the king's musketeers." "Bad timing, so I've been told. Like the Knights of the Round Table, the musketeers have outlived their usefulness, and so have your three friends. Tell me where I can find them, and I'll spare your life." "Can't tell you what I don't know. Give my regards to the headsman and your father." "Wait, what? Or wait, you object to losing your head?" "Yes, I like it where it is." I love that line. "Yes, I like it where it is. Then tell me what I want to know, and you might keep it a while longer." "I don't know where they are." "And if you did?" "Well, more arrogance. I wouldn't tell you." Dude, wow. Just fucking wow. Your arrogance rivals. Whew. Yeah. Anyway, he's like, "I admire your courage, D'Artagnan. You might have made a fine musketeer, but I guess we'll never know. Will we?" I love how he does that, where he's talking, but then he does, "Will we?" In his will we, kind of builds it up, you know? So then he's getting out there, he's about to be executed. And the cardinal is talking with Rochefort about his attraction to the Countess de Winter, and the boy is getting led up to the chopping block. And then Gerard shows up. "D'Artagnan, don't lose your head." I'm like, drop the beat for "Don't Lose Your Head" by Queen. You know? But then you hear a very familiar voice. "Fear not, my son. We are with you always. All for one." And lifts his hat up. It's Charlie Sheen. "And one for all." And then you hear the headsman. "This axe was a gift to me by the Tsarina of Tokyo." So you know it's Porthos. with a bullshit story, you know? And then you see Aramis knock out a cardinal's guard on the carriage, and then and that's when the rescue happens. And it's just beautiful, well done. You see Aramis open up a Bible, pull out a gun, and shoot one of the cardinal's guards, and it's like, isn't that defacing a Bible? Because I actually used to have a lot of those book safes where you open up the book and it's a nice little open place to put things. I used to have a lot of those, and they're actually very cool to have too, because especially if you have a study or a bookshelf and whatnot. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So then Cardinal or Richelieu's carriage gets stolen. He's like, "My carriage!" I mean, it's like, dude, you're in love with your carriage a little too much. So, I mean, this is the second time his carriage has been defaced and stolen from, or stolen in full entirety. But anyway, so they all are getting out of there, and it leads to the chase in the woods. And freaking Porthos, man. Porthos, dude. Wow. Morning. Hold on one second, folks. It's brilliant. yes, the scene or the carriage chase is like, or you hear a court, or you hear something pop, and and D'Artagnan's like, they're firing at us. No, it's just champagne. We're in the middle of a chase, Porthos. You're right. Something red. So he goes back to, for a chase, the Cardinal recommends his 1924 or his 1624 Cabernet. You can't have any. You're too young. So he gives Athos the Cabernet, and he's like, take the reins, boy. And he starts drinking. And that's when they start shooting and whatnot. So it's like, or also Aramis comes up. He's like, D'Artagnan, because there's a huge chest of gold coins in there. It's like, would you be a good lad and redistribute this wealth? Throw the coins, boy, or the people are hungry. So he throws the coins. That's a good way of getting in the way of the Cardinal's guards because, well, the coins are going to be a good draw to the people who were at the time hungry. In this point in history, in real life history, Richelieu was basically taxing the poor. And even the French council did not like Richelieu's choice of just taxing the poor for a war effort, or he was taxing them more than even the rich, because the rich were barely even being taxed at all. And at this point, Richelieu was hated for that in real life history, because he was working for what's known as absolute monarchy. So anyway, later into the thing during the shootout, you hear, or Porthos is like, the wine was delicious, the wine was great, the ride was great, the food was delicious. Remind me to send the Cardinal a note. The Cardinal, we have to hurry. And they talk about the treaty that the Cardinal is sending to Calais to be sent to the Duke of Buckingham. And it's like, he's conspiring against the king. Tell us something we don't know. He sent a treaty to a man called Buckingham. The Duke of Buckingham? You know him? He rules England the way that Cardinal rules France. And then they tell him about the ship called the Persephone and how it's going to sail from Calais and whatnot. We get that treaty, we can prove the Cardinal guilty of treason. Is the Cardinal aware that you have this information? Yes. And so they realize that they got to turn here. And so the chase ends with them throwing or pushing the powder, or pushing the carriage filled with brandy and gunpowder and ignited, and they push it down into a powder wagon so that they can escape. And because the Cardinal's guards would not be able to continue pursuit after, because they would actually be obligated to help the people who are kind of loyal to them and stop, well, half of Paris from burning down, because that was a pretty big freaking powder wagon that it ran into. And when you see black powder go up, the barrels, they go up. They fly as they're burning, and then they blow and whatnot. So yes, it can cause a lot of problems. And I gotta say, the entire setting of this movie is so well done. You see the long sweeping country shots riding through the country. I think it was actually shot in Paris or shot in France, in the French countryside. It was just that well done. I don't know where it was shot, to be completely honest, but it is a very beautiful countryside that they do, or that they had this, plus all the towers and whatnot that they show in this movie as well. So then they have a shot of the Musketeers on the road to Calais, and Rochefort reports this to the Cardinal, who has carrier pigeons. Now, for those of you who don't know what carrier pigeons are, I'm pretty sure most of you do, but for those of you who may watch this video later on, carrier pigeons were pigeons that were trained to carry small little messages to people all around the area. And they extend for miles and miles and miles. Like the people who were in the more Viking times, Sender even, Well, messenger ravens, carrier pigeons, and whatnot. Birds were messengers. So the bounty has been put on the Musketeers and the boy, 1,000 gold pieces for their heads, dead or alive, but I prefer dead. Now, then they get to this nice little dive that they're in, this nice little bar, and Porthos is schooling D'Artagnan on the art of wenching. The art of wenching, folks. I love it. This scene was brilliant. Even back then as a kid, I understood that this is what's happening, yeah. Kissing and whatnot, adult stuff. It was filmed a lot in Austria, Vienna, and the UK. Thank you, Blake. Thank you very much. And so he's like, now, you're going to have to be schooled in the art of wenching. And then one of the barmaids smiles at D'Artagnan knowingly. He's like, I like you. He's like, ooh, for subject. Very good. Very good indeed. Now, the trick is in the first kiss. First kiss must be all that you are. Now, if she thinks it's weak, she'll think you're weak. If it's comical, she'll think you're a clown. With me, weak, comical clown. No, exactly. So a musketeer is never weak, and only rarely a clown. He looks at Aramis, because Aramis he's listening into this as well. So your kiss must tell you everything about you, like this. And so he kisses one of the barmaids, or one of the women that are with him, and it's a comical kiss. He draws him down and falls over. She's laughing about it and all. Comes up. He's like, see? Now, you can trade a few words or two, your name, her name, an endearment or two. Trust me, words are a complete waste of time at the sensitive moment. So then Aramis decides to chime in. Only the wrong words are a complete waste of time. The right words can make a far better impression than 1,000 of Porthos's kisses. And so he gets all Shakespearean on the woman because she's like, not likely. And she's still kind of dizzy from the kiss. And so he's like, shall I demonstrate? And so he gets down on his knee and recites a poetry or an ode to this woman. As morning hues, a sun-swept fire caress your passion face. Alone with these, of pure desire to worship untold grace. My soul would cry in silent prayer 2 hours swept apart. Your essence warms the evening air as I dance into your heart. And so D'Artagnan thinks it's Shakespeare, and he's like, Shakespeare? Aramis. Cheating! That was beautiful! She's like, that was beautiful! He's like, thank you, and she kisses him. So he's like, very well, D'Artagnan, your turn. So D'Artagnan just saw that Aramis is, sorry, I got a little louder because outside, but noise cancellation. I'm sorry, folks. But anyway, he gets up to use Aramis's technique with the barmaid that was smiling at him earlier. She's actually a pretty beautiful barmaid too. This one, brunette, friggin' hot. But anyway, so he gets down on his knees and he's drunk at this point. As morning hues of sun-swept fire, caress your poisoned face. And I'm like, oh my god! And you also see Aramis close his eyes. He's like, So D'Artagnan goes for broke, kisses him, and everybody starts clapping. Well done, the boy's a natural. And so then the music kicks in. Ooh, a lively tune. I'm inspired to dance. So Porthos gets up and starts his dancing, and D'Artagnan notices Athos is drinking alone. Now, the tale of Athos, he takes his drinking very seriously. Not to worry, he'll be his normal, charming self in the morning. So he goes to see Athos, and he's like, why don't you join us? You fight like a man. Oh, excuse me. You fight like a man. Let's see if you can drink like one. I'll drink whatever you put in front of me. God damn the arrogance of that boy. And, hey, Cayman Rider, good to see you. Just noticed your comment. Sorry about that. What's good? It's all good, man. It's all good. So we're just talking Three Musketeers, the Disney one with Chris O'Donnell, Oliver Platt, Kiefer Sutherland, Charlie Sheen, Tim Curry, Michael Wincott, Rebecca De Mornay. Gabrielle Anwar. Yeah, great movie, great cast. It's all good. So he's like, I'll drink whatever you can put in front of me. Famous last words. I actually beat a friend in a drinking game during a class reunion one time. He's like, yeah, that was fun. But anyway, he thought he could outdrink me, and it turns out I was able to get, a story for another time. But anyway, he's like, what should we drink to? Let's drink to love. Dude, you don't love that barmaid. You don't love that barmaid. You don't know what love is yet. You're way too freaking young for it. Well, not way too freaking young for it. You're still young. But yes, he's like, to love. Let me tell you a story about love, D'Artagnan. I knew a young man once, a count. And this count was a nice guy. He feared he would never fall in love until he met a woman who was beyond intoxicated, or beyond beautiful. She was intoxicating. And he felt his heart would burst if he couldn't have her. What happened? The poor idiot married her. Wasn't that what happens when two people fall in love? Shut up and listen to me. One day they were riding through the country and she fell from her horse, knocked unconscious. He went to help her and noticed a mark on her body, on her arm, one she had kept concealed all this time. What was it? It was the brand of the fleur-de-lis, a mark only given to those who were to be executed for murder. Now, believe it or not, you think that this is just a throwaway tale. It comes to play later on in this movie. All the things that are told in this movie, the little stories and whatnot, they come to play in this movie. It's a very tightly woven movie in a way, because it's actually, and that is also an objective standard or an objective quality that is very well done. And so he's like, he can't, or the count was devastated. The woman he loved had lied to him and betrayed him and whatnot. So he banished her from his province, even though she had claimed to be falsely accused. He would have nothing of it. And then he realized when she was taken away to be executed, he realized how much he still loved her, and she was still professing her undying love. And so the count was devastated, and he gave up his land, his title, never to be seen or heard from again, all in the name of love. Now, it's a very brooding story, which is then interrupted by Porthos crashing into the table, and all the wenches are freaking laughing at him. And he's like, laughing, he sees Porthos. Ooh, may I have this dance? And Porthos is like, just knocks him out and laughs. So it goes on to the next day. And like, how's your head, D'Artagnan? I'm starting to wish that, or the cardinal had chopped it off. Would you stop whistling? You start hearing a whistling noise. He's like, I'm not whistling. Well, somebody's whistling. Barmaid's kiss left him dizzy. But Aramis hears it too. He's like, I hear it too. It sounds like a cannonball. And then cannonball blows up close to him. He's like, oh, I hate cannonballs. Porthos. And it's a tower in back of them that's shooting at him. And they realize the cardinal has a long reach. And then they see a bunch of, so they're dodging cannonballs. And then they see a bunch of bounty hunters on horseback heading toward him. Let's split up. D'Artagnan rides with me. There's another Three Musketeers made by Disney with Disney's main trio, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. Yes, there is that one, but I prefer this one because it's more live action and fun. But also it does have the adult humor that people can appreciate today if you're an adult. It's something that I believe Disney is missing. You gotta have movies for adults in Disney as well. You can't just keep making everything child friendly. Whatever happened to the days that you can do movies like Three Musketeers that have the adult humors that kids would not get until they are older. The Three Musketeers is a gem that has a formula that should be used today in making films. But anyway, so they split up, and there was another scene, I believe, because this is actually where the cutting is kind of iffy. And yes, the cannonball's trajectory issues. Oh yes, the trajectory issues of the cannonballs. You actually see when the cannon fires, it's firing that way, but the cannonball blows that or explodes onto the ground like way over there. It's like, holy crap. So then they cut to a scene with the Queen in her back. Her lady in waiting, Constance, is talking about their meeting with D'Artagnan. It seems that my camera has lost connection. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah. Let's try to get it back, shall we? Nope, it's not going to work. But anyway, so she's talking about how she felt her cheeks flush and her Okay, I'm good. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know why, but this thing does like to cut out. Why this camera is starting to pull this crap is beyond me. I might have to get a better camera at the time or later on. But anyway, the lady in waiting is telling how much she liked D'Artagnan, but she doesn't understand why she felt this way after only meeting for a moment. And the Queen tells her tale about how she was promised to Louis, and she was furious. The thought of marrying a complete stranger, a person she never saw, she thought she would never be happy. But then when she saw Louis for the first time, she fell in love with him. And she reaffirms this to, or she basically says that she knew, and she's like, or her lady in waiting is like, what did you know? What you felt in your heart when you first saw D'Artagnan. So she's basically reaffirming to her lady in waiting that you are basically in love. And he's like, but what if he doesn't feel the same? Well, we should never give up hope. And so she goes, or then her lady in waiting goes to get a robe, but so you see the Queen stand out of her bathtub and get in the robe, but it's the Cardinal being very perverted. Tim Curry, man, he does a great job at being a frickin' villain. So he tries basically seducing the Queen in her chambers. But he does use his presence there or he uses an excuse for his presence to be there. The Queen, or I fear the King, has fallen into a dreadful melancholy. He wants to postpone his birthday celebration. Perhaps he wants to focus on more important matters, like the coming war with England and whatnot. So then, after she says that she will speak to her husband about the birthday celebration, he's like, thank you. And then he starts wooing her again. And he tells her, he's like, many believe that being a cardinal, such intimate desires are void for my existence, but I am still a man. And she's like, your sacrifice brings you closer to God. Well, perhaps it's not God I wish to be closer to. I want you to know, I want you to understand what an alliance between you and me could do for France. And then she kicks him out. She's like, I think you should leave. So you see him when he's walking away, you see him just, and then he turns back. Remember, kings come and kings go, but one thing remains the same, and that is me. So then, yeah, there's that. And it's like, it's a very, very telling threat, basically saying that your husband may not be here long enough to really do anything for you. Just saying. So then it goes back to the chase where Aramis, or not Aramis, but Athos and D'Artagnan are riding, and another piece of the puzzle is given of D'Artagnan and his father, where D'Artagnan's like, you knew my father? Because Athos says, you're a good man, D'Artagnan, much like your father was. He's like, you knew my father only by reputation. His death was mourned by all Musketeers. How did he die? He uncovered a plot to assassinate the king. He was then led into a trap by a fellow musketeer and then murdered. And so you hear, or then he's like, musketeer? And that's when the chase is back on, because the bounty hunters shoot Athos's horse and have them pinned down. And it's like, oh, damn. Now, when you see the horse jump up after it gets shot and fall over, you don't see the bullet hole, or you don't see the bullet impact. But when the horse is lying down, you actually do see that there is an impact. And I'm like, okay, thank God. That shows you that the horse wasn't really shot. Because believe me, if a horse got shot by a black powder pistol, devastation. Anyway, so they're like, well, we didn't lose him. You have to carry on. You have to go without me. Get to Calais, intercept the king's message, or the cardinal's messenger, and make sure that treaty doesn't get to England. He's like, there are too many of them. Go. Or he's like, what about you? I can't just leave you here by yourself. The Musketeers' first order is to protect the king. You have to intercept that king's messenger. Hold on, folks. Sorry about that. So he says, or he basically reaffirms that if the kid wants to be a musketeer, he has to act like a musketeer. He has to continue on with the mission in order to protect the king. And so he's like, there's too many of them. Go, or I will shoot you myself. Kiefer Sutherland has such a ferocity in serious action roles that basically makes you believe that he will do what he says he's going to do. I mean, when he says that he's going to shoot D'Artagnan if he doesn't leave right now, you believe he's going to shoot D'Artagnan if he doesn't leave right now. So he's like, so D'Artagnan gives him his guns and powder. He's like, take these. I'll never forget you. Go! So then he rides off, and you see how a nice brilliant shot where they zoom in on Athos. So you kind of think that he might actually be killed. So then they cut back to the palace where Louis is learning swordplay, fencing, and whatnot from his teacher. And then the cardinal comes in. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm late, Your Majesty. I was attending to an important matter of state. And sorry about that. I keep getting messaged. So it's like, as a kid, you don't understand what he means. But Tim Curry, nope. After he was just in the Queen's chamber, saw her naked. Yeah, it's pretty freaking clear that the Cardinal was just kind of had to take off all of his clothes and just kind of flog the bishop, you know? So, yeah, it's like, I was wrestling with some important matters of state. So you were jacking off because you saw the Queen naked. Gotcha. So then the king does confront the cardinal about some troubling rumors he's hearing. He's like, so many to choose from. Betrayal? Ah, yes. That is usually the first. And this is actually a very well-executed scene. It's displaying how the cardinal can literally tell the king the truth of what is going on, but can sell it as a far-fetched rumor. And he's like, the Duke of Buckingham, or while the English plot from without, the evil cardinal plots from within, forging a secret alliance with Buckingham and placing himself on the throne. He's literally telling him that exactly what's happening, but he sells it as if it's just a rumor, as if it's just ridiculousness, you know? He's like, but why stop there? I've heard so many more festive variations. I make oaths with pagan gods. What was the other thing? I make deals with truth or soothsayers or something like that. Teach horses to fly and pigs to dance and keep the moon safely tucked under the folds of my robe. Also seduce the queen. Oh, right. Seduce the queen in her own chamber and teach horses to fly and pigs to dance. He does it so well that he allays the king's rumor or the king's worries. And he's like, Your Majesty, if there is any doubts of my loyalty, they'll be put to rest when we appear together on your birthday. So then he convinces the king to have his birthday celebration because the queen will be there. And it will be a moment, or it will be an event to remember. So then they go back to the Musketeers to continue the story. Well, D'Artagnan has fallen off of his horse because he's fallen asleep in the middle of the road to Calais. And who finds him but Countess de Winter, the spy? Now, they're in Calais, or they ride to Calais. He wakes up. This shot, folks, basically, it's like Disney would be hung if they had a shot like this again, where you see Chris O'Donnell waking up, Rebecca De Mornay's boobs in her fucking corset are just right there, like in the entire corner where my finger is, right about here, is nothing but boobs in the entire shot. And I'm like, wow, Disney would be crucified if they tried a shot like this today. But back then, it was more normal. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. But it's like, okay. So he finds out he's in Calais Tuesday at midnight, and he's like, where are my clothes? And she plays a seduction game with him. That is the thing about Countess de Winter. She is a seductress. She uses her feminine wiles, her beauty, to get what she needs done. And she's like, do you have a name, or should I make one up for you? God, I hope the cancellation of my microphone is working to cancel that stuff out. But anyway, he's like, D'Artagnan, I like that. So, or he's like, Lady, I'm thankful for all you've done, but I'm on a very important business. Does it require clothes? Yes, I need my clothes. Well, I'm afraid they won't be ready for at least an hour. Till then, you're my prisoner. Would the prisoner like a drink? Well, I am thirsty. Kid! Wow. So she tries the whole seduction game, and she's like, or he's like, I'm on an important mission from the king. Well, he's like, I'm serious. You're young. The young are often given to exaggeration. I'm here to stop a spy. Well, her being the spy, she's like, a spy? Yes, I believe you. Then she tries wooing him to, God damn it, busy! For fuck's sake, people. Don't care about that. Okay, I'm going to turn my phone off. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, so she tries seducing him because she realizes he's there to stop her. And she tries stabbing him. They wrestle to the ground, and there's a brand on her that is a very folded-in fleur-de-lis. It does not look like the fleur-de-lis at all. It actually kind of looks like a shell. Yeah, a fleur. I shouldn't have turned off my phone. I could have shown you what a fleur-de-lis actually looks like, so I'm going to turn it back on, sadly. But yeah, so he's like, oh my God. So she calls in her men, Parker, and this dude's a kung fu guy, kicks the crap out of D'Artagnan, knocks him out. So then they arrive at the Persephone, and I love this guy, Henry's like, we're the Countess de Winter's party arriving from Paris. Permission to come aboard! And then you hear, permission granted! Exactly like that. And you also recognize that it's Porthos's voice. And wow. So they get on, and the guy's like, take a seat, Captain. No reaction. Are you deaf? So then the dude falls dead, and everybody else is checking the bodies. Dead. They're all dead. And then Aramis is like, not all of us. So they start fighting. And then Porthos swings in, kicks the dude off, or kicks the Henry guy off the boat, and lands in front of D'Artagnan being held by Parker. And there's these two other guys who go up to Porthos with their swords, and they're like, Porthos the pirate! Ah! And they scream, and they all run off the freaking boat, including the guy that's guarding Countess de Winter. He runs off the boat, and they're like, pirate? I told you I was famous. So Parker throws the guy, or D'Artagnan away. Ah! And so Porthos tries stabbing at him, and he's missing him. So he's doing a bunch of acrobatics, and then pulls out his double swords, starts swooshing them like this, and he's like, ah! Yeah! Snip! Causes Parker to fall. That scene from the trailer, it's even in the trailer, where freaking Porthos is just like, yeah, slice, causes the guy to fall, and he's like, just waves to it. That was one of the funniest parts of the entire freaking movie. Again, folks, Oliver Platt's acting in this movie is like seriously top notch. He is hilarious in The Three Musketeers. He is Porthos in this movie. It was the perfect casting. So then it shows the Countess running off the boat, and Athos arriving, recognizing her, Sabine, first name basis, okay. Also, that little story that Athos told her, or told D'Artagnan, about the Count that fell in love with this Countess woman. Ooh, talking about the Three Musketeers? Awesome. Yes, Netcat. This movie is the movie that we are talking about. And so he's like, I thought you were dead. Cardinal Richelieu took pity on me. You're the spy. The treaty, give it to me. No. I will shoot. Be kind. Aim at my heart. And he's like, so then while she was before they got to the boat scene, she was getting ready to leave the building, and another guy who's named Lord de Winter shows up. The Countess de Winter, is she here? No, I haven't seen her. She killed my brother, old man. So this tells you that she is also running from the family of the De Winter family, and he just caught up with her. So they got their hands on the treaty. They read the treaty. It makes no mention of the king, but a demonstration of the cardinal's power and how an alliance would be forged from it. And they're like, what kind of demonstration? I don't know. I know somebody who does. So Athos basically goes in to talk to the Countess, and she's like, there was a time this scene, you really feel the conversation. There was a time I would have given my life for a kind word from you. I could not give it. I was a fool. Is it true what he said? Did you kill his brother? I have become the monster you once thought me to be, but not before, not us. This is basically confirming that the story that Athos told D'Artagnan was a story about himself. Athos was that count who had married this woman, Sabine, and felt betrayed when he found that mark on her body because he felt that she was lying and that she had murdered somebody and that she had probably only married him to be protected by the law because of him being, or because of his station as a count. So yes, he's like, so this is basically an affirmation of that tale. And she also affirms no. Or when he says not us, but not before, not us, no. She's basically saying I was never guilty until after Cardinal Richelieu turned me into that monster. And he's like, are you aware of the king's plan, or of the cardinal's plans? I am. Tell me, will you have my life spared? I can't. Well, society demands swift justice. I will take my secrets to my grave. Sabine, you will die for your crimes, but how you leave this world depends on you. So the next scene is basically them walking up to a hill to have her executed. Now, I'm pretty sure Shadiversity, I would love him to actually review the Three Musketeers. I really would actually like him to review that movie based on the swords and whatnot, because you know that he'll have a thing to say about it. I honestly think that I like Shadiversity. He does great work. And I'm actually curious as to what his thoughts would be on the 1993 Three Musketeers and how they portrayed the movie. Now, Aramis gives her last rites before her execution, and she gets on her knees for the execution, and the guy actually brings up the sword to do it, but Athos stops him and asks for forgiveness from Sabine, from the woman that he once loved. And she's like, I do forgive you. That was all she needed. She needed that one kind act of love again from Athos. And so after a kiss, she lets him know the cardinal intends to assassinate the king on Friday at his birthday celebration. And then she leaps to her death. And you really do feel that situation. That entire scene where you actually see Porthos in the background when she's about to be executed. He steps sideways where he literally goes like this and looks, but then looks on. You could tell he's not one to witness the executions, even though he was pretending to be an executioner. Shad reviewing this would be pretty cool. I actually am going to try to get a hold of Shad to see what he thinks of the Three Musketeers movie, because honestly, I would like to know his thoughts on the swordplay and whatnot in this movie, as well as the swords used. Now, I know that he would probably point out in this scene the executioner's sword. Now, from what I did learn from Shad's own channel, executioner swords do not have a pointed tip. They're actually blunted like this. It's the blade it's cutting off a head. So it would be more, or it's the blade that matters. Executioner swords are meant for executions, not for stabbing. They're meant to cut off a head, and that's it. And they're meant to be extremely sharp and heavy as well. So yeah, I would definitely love to see Shad point out all these different things, plus give his thoughts on the movie itself. But anyway, moving on. Now that they know what the plan is, they should go back and cut back to the palace, where it shows a drawing of, or a portrait of the king, and a bullet hole going right through its forehead. And you see the cardinal looking through the hole. Impressive that he can do that every time. Michael Wincott's voice, dude. God damn, that dude's voice is awesome. I can't imitate it like I once used to. I actually used to imitate it very well, but I can't do it anymore. You know? It just doesn't work. He's like, and he has no qualms, none. He believes that no man should value kings before God. A man of faith, how reassuring. Now when he does his, when the cardinal does his crossing gesture to the shooter, he does it upside down. That's important because, well, remember how he made the rumor, I make oaths with pagan gods? Well, there is an upside down cross in some pagan religions. I mean, yeah. The Cardinal Richelieu in this movie was not, or maybe at one time he was devout, but he has become less devout through the years. So he's like, whatever you're paying him, double it. Oh, and hang this back in my chamber, just as it is. He was always too flattering. And then you see the Musketeers riding throughout France, and Porthos using his crossbow to send out the call to arms, all for one and one for all. Basically calling all Musketeers back into service. And you see the Musketeers all grabbing their spare tunics and spare commissions, their spare swords. Because remember, in the beginning of the movie, the Musketeers, when they were disbanded, had to give up their tunics and their swords, their commissions. So, but all of them were given spares in case of emergency, you know? In case one of their tunics was destroyed, they had their other just in case. So you see the Musketeer or other Musketeers grabbing their swords, getting ready and whatnot, and then they arrive in Paris. And it's like, we'll find the king, you find whoever, or you find the assassin and stop him. They're like, wait, but go. So then D'Artagnan finds the assassin. It's a sniper, or finds the sniper, and arms. He stops the sniper, and the shot goes off as Richelieu kicks sorry, I'm stuttering, folks. I accidentally went out of order again. The scene with Anne and the king, the king, Louis, how they're preparing for the birthday celebration to go out to the men. They have a talk, and they're like, and she's like, thank you for coming. And they're talking about Cardinal Richelieu. Yes, he's a very evil man. Do not believe every rumor you hear. I ride through he's very powerful. And then Cardinal Richelieu, after they pass him, he turns to follow them with Michael Wincott's character. And as they're talking to each other, they realize that they have been put in a very precarious situation. And with Rochefort and Cardinal Richelieu walking up behind them, you basically feel that they are indeed in very mortal danger. So when the shot goes off, the king immediately calls out Richelieu. He realized that Richelieu is the one behind all of this. Even though Richelieu is still playing the protective cardinal, guards, get the majesties inside and whatnot. And so he's then killed those musketeers. They're trying to murder the king. And so the three musketeers draw their swords. You see the cardinal's guards, a huge line of them, draw their swords. But then you see all the other musketeers pull off their outer tunics to reveal their musketeer tunics. The musketeers are back, and it's great fight scenes, the choreography. You also see freaking Porthos get to use more cool, nifty weapons. And I do love the shot where Porthos is fighting an older Cardinal's guard. And so he ducks, and then he comes up. He's like, ha-ha, boom, and shoots a Cardinal's guard. And he's like, ha-ha, boom. And the guy's like, oh! It's fucking hilarious. So then he tangles with another guy, and he flips the gun he flicks the gun a little bit to have a knife come out from the side of the barrel and stabs that guy in the arm. He's like, ooh, I like this. And it goes to show you how versatile Porthos is with his weapons. Bola's a freaking knife or a blade or a sword-breaking blade, plus a knife or a gun knife and whatnot, and the crossbow and whatnot. So then when D'Artagnan's fighting the assassin, he gets thrown onto a flag where he has to, and Porthos pulls out a little crossbow, and he's like, shoots him. I just love that little thing. He's like, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so mafia, And then he's like, come, D'Artagnan, we're saving the king. It's just fucking hilarious. So then inside the palace, the cardinal faces the king. He's like, you are so naive. The things couldn't have gone any better if I planned them myself. The king dies at the hands of his own personal guard, grief-stricken, terrified. The huddled masses then turn to their devout spiritual leader, whosoever humbly assumes the throne. Oh, with the queen by his side. She's like, I would rather die. That can be arranged. And it's like, shit, dude. When he literally says that, you kind of almost hear thunder in that room. And I'm like, that is a great sound effect. It really expresses the danger of this man. It really reinforces that this man is very dangerous. And then he's like, but first, your reluctant husband will be found pierced through the heart by the sword of a musketeer, the same sword that failed to protect his father. And Michael Wincott is the very person who assassinated his father, as well as the musketeer who failed to protect his father, D'Artagnan's father. Anyway, D'Artagnan's father, D'Artagnan. But anyway, the musketeers all get in and interrupt that assassination attempt as well. Drop my damn thing. But anyway, so they're like, hope we're not interrupting. On the contrary, you're right on time. And so Athos, Porthos are fighting, and Aramis and Porthos are fighting, where Athos is fighting Rochefort. And when the cardinal decides to try to escape, you then see the culmination of that little story about how Aramis was one of the cardinal's students. He comes in, he's like, leaving so soon? Oh, I abhor bloodshed, especially your own. Stand aside. He's like, you are under arrest, charged with treason. You should know that the cardinal, or you of all people should know, that the cardinal does not answer to the laws of men. And when Charlie Sheen turns his sword, you see the cross on top of his basket hilt, then you will answer to God. And it's a brilliant scene. And then you see the cardinal shoot Aramis, and it's like, damn. And when Porthos sees this, it's like, holy crap. He flips and he's checking, or he pushes one dude out of the way, gets in between two other people and gets them out of the way, and starts trying to find where Aramis was shot. Now, during this time, Athos is fighting Rochefort. Rochefort's ferocity in his fighting, you really see how dangerous this character is. You've never seen him truly fight until now, but you see that he is extremely, or he knows that he was once a musketeer, and he knows how to handle certain musketeers. Where when he's fighting Athos, he knows Athos' right-handed, that is his dominant hand. And so I have to dispatch him quickly. So when he throws Athos to the ground, he tries stabbing him, but is deflected, grabs Athos' arm and stabs him in the arm, essentially putting Athos out of commission, or so he thinks. Athos gets up, switches hands, and so Rochefort's like, fine, I'll humor you some more. So then when Athos is fighting him more and knocks him down, Rochefort loses the sword that was D'Artagnan's sword. D'Artagnan grabs it. He's like, this sword belongs to me. So it does. He then relieves Athos, and Athos does the, I'll use my knife, basic, and whatnot. He does the whole swooshing out so he can go find what's going on with the king. So then you get the nice little puzzle of, let's see if you're as brave as a man as your father was, and as foolish. So now it's Rochefort versus D'Artagnan. And you see how Rochefort is toying with him at first, and how he is basically he's testing D'Artagnan to see just how skilled he is. And you just see how how very evil this guy looks. He just exudes confidence and evilness, or vile evil. So you see Athos and Porthos. It's like, is he alive? And he's still searching, and then you see Aramis. He's like, it's okay, easy. And you see the cross got shot. Aramis' cross. He's like, you see, there is a God. And so they go after Cardinal Richelieu into the hidden door. And the Cardinal is like, we're being followed. Do something about it. And you see the leprosy, or you see the dungeon master in the dungeons with the leprosy tosses a guy, and you know that he's going to be fighting. Now, you then see the three musketeers split up when they reach a fork in the road. Aramis goes right, Athos goes left, Porthos goes center, and Porthos gets into the main dungeon area, and he's like, and then you see the dungeon master growling behind him. Whoa, ugly! He's like smelling the guy. It's like, whoa, ugly! So he fights that dude and grabs a hot poker, pokes him in the ass, and then he dispatches it by getting caught up in a bear hug, and he's like, you smelly lump of lard! And puts him into the spikes. And you see the dude freaking jiggling like, ugh. What does Porthos do? He's like, I mean, he's just getting closer and closer. It's like, so, is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? And so the guy just starts screaming. He's like, ah! And Porthos is like, ah! He grabs an axe, slices a rope, and a giant iron cage just smashes into the guy, finishing him off. And folks, this is what I mean by adult. If you would have seen this in a kid's movie, oh my God, kids would be terrified. But this movie is not meant for just kids, or this movie is meant for kids and adults. And there are certain scenes that a kid might actually be a little bit afraid of and whatnot. But still, it's a movie that I think is needed for certain kids, or for some kids, because some kids should be able to handle this stuff, you know? So when he gets smashed and whatnot, you see the blood running out of his mouth, like, and so then it cuts back to the fight between Rochefort and D'Artagnan, and you see that D'Artagnan's being pushed back, and Rochefort is basically conducting this fight like a dance. And then he tries swiping at D'Artagnan's feet, and D'Artagnan jumps off of a stair banister and does a nice little flip, which if you actually pause on that, you can actually see it's a stunt man. He's like, impressive. And so then he's decided that he's had enough. He disarms D'Artagnan, throws him against the wall, and he's like, how pathetic. Killed by the same man who killed his father. You killed my father? Oh, yes. As I will you. Rochefort is actually very, very skilled, as I have said. So when he does the lunge and misses, and he basically anticipates what D'Artagnan's going to do, grabbing his arm, so he elbows him in the stomach and just throws him back down the stairs, weakening him further. Well, one thing is certain. You are no musketeer. So, now, when he disarmed D'Artagnan by hitting his sword off the stair ledge, you see the lady-in-waiting Constance see where the sword is and see that it's D'Artagnan. So when Rochefort says, you are no musketeer, and lifts up to finish him, you see the sword slide into D'Artagnan's hand so he could finish off Rochefort and stab him. And he's like, that death scene of Rochefort is actually pretty good. I might have been mistaken. And so he just walks over to the stairs, lays down, and closes his eye. And it's like, all right, for you, father. And then you see Constance with D'Artagnan. It's like, D'Artagnan, if you want to be a musketeer, you still got to try to save the king. But you know what? Let him have. He just got done getting his ass kicked and winning against the guy that kicked his ass. So he's earned his reprieve. So they get to back to Athos and Aramis, or Athos and Porthos, where Athos is trying to get to Richelieu before he gets onto the boat to sail away. And Porthos comes down and smacks two guys down. He's like, where have you been? Taking care of something ugly. So then they get down there, and Richelieu's giving his monologue. You're too late, musketeers. By now, my signature, or the Duke of Buckingham's signature, is next to mine. The alliance is complete. That would be difficult, considering the treaty never left France. And he has the treaty in his hand. He's like, a minor problem. I shall return twice as strong, and the throne will be mine. It's like, and you think he's going to get away, except that Aramis is the guy on the boat. He's like, I think not. And then he punches out the two Cardinals' guards. You shall never harm another soul ever again. My promise to God. The king stops him, and you see frickin' Richelieu like just give a shit-eating grin. Wait. And then the king punches the cardinal off the frickin' boat. It's like, Your Majesty, nice. And then the king shares a kiss with his queen, and it goes to the celebration afterward, where Athos, Porthos, and Aramis are walking with D'Artagnan up to the king. They kneel, and the king asks D'Artagnan, what can I do to repay the courage you've shown me? Well, D'Artagnan is a little bit nervous, so Athos informs him. He's like, Your Majesty, D'Artagnan has but one desire, and that is to become a musketeer. Then approach, and then he is knighted by the king. And it is a beautiful speech that the king says, this is an uncertain realm filled with danger. The noble undermined by the oppressors to take, and whatnot. I can't remember it. I can't paraphrase it. I'm basically at my wit's end right now with this, but he basically says, but there are those who would oppose these powerful forces. These men are musketeers. Rise, D'Artagnan, and join them. And it is a beautiful scene afterward because, well, the lady-in-waiting Constance goes up to D'Artagnan after he's been robed into the musketeer blue, and D'Artagnan just gets on in there, man. Great kiss with frickin' Constance. And you see Porsto shedding a tear. So then they walk out. He catches up to him. He's like, so what do we do now? What's next? Well, we protect the king, protect the queen, in the name of France, or in the name of God, and France, correct? France indeed. D'Artagnan! And it's Gerard and his brothers. My sister's honor will not wait a moment longer. And it's like, I'll handle this. D'Artagnan, we also protect each other. So he looks at all three of them, and then he's like, all for one, and one for all. And so then you see Gerard close up, his eyes widen, and he's like, run! And the entire freaking corps of the Musketeers are chasing them. I'm like, wait, whoa. Who's protecting the king? I mean, it's a brilliant end, don't get me wrong. And then it sings the wonderful song for Bryan Adams, Sting, and another guy, I can't remember the name, All for Love. And it's, which Mara, if she's still listening, I believe, had that song stuck in her head all day yesterday. But yes, that actually ends out the movie. And there's a guy, well, it looks like we're having some internet problems. Hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. There we go. But anyway, so it does out that song, and now let's get to the score, or to the scores. This movie, objectively, it has its moments of weaker acting because, well, Chris O'Donnell was younger at the time, so I still will give him the benefit of the doubt because he was young. He was but his acting could have been a little bit better. So objectively, I'll put this movie at around an 8.5 to a 9. The movie is well done. It's written well. It's just that some of the acting could have been a little bit better in certain scenes. So yes, an 8.5 to a 9 I think is fair. There was no real blue screen that was used too much in this movie. So if there was, it was actually really done well. But for the most part, this movie was done pretty solidly throughout. So yeah, an 8.5 to a 9 out of 10 is actually a very fair, objective review. This movie is a product of its time, which was a very good telling. It's not a historical telling, and I'm pretty sure SJWs will bitch about this movie if they get their hands on it, which I'm hoping they never do, because this movie is what movies should be like nowadays, even with kids' movies, because this movie does have adult themes, but it's not overt. There's no real sexual stuff in this movie. However, it is heavily implied, but it's not implied to a degree that kids can understand the implication, you know? So subjectively, it's 10 out of 10. I love this movie as a kid, and I still love it today as an adult. Moviegoer, this movie is great fun. It's a family film, and I think that it is also still wonderfully done to the point where I think that moviegoer, it's a 10 out of 10. I found very little wrong with this movie. Now, I'm pretty sure you'll have other people do nitpicks, go through scene by scene to see if they can find little technical goofs here and there. But honestly, that's not what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for technical goofs. I was looking for a problem with story, the writing, the acting. And yes, there are some acting issues, but for the most part, this movie is very well solid and very much worthy of seeing nowadays. And I think that all of the actors involved deserve a very well high praise and a standing ovation because of how well the movie was done. But I did notice there was one person in the credits. I can't remember who he was playing, but his name, I almost died laughing. His last name is F-U-X, Herbert Fox. So I'm like, please tell me it's like Foo or something like that. F-U-X being F-U silent X, so it's Few or something like that, or Fuzz or whatever. But if it's Herbert Fox, it's like, dude, love your name. Awesome. But yes, this movie was indeed a very well done movie, and I truly enjoyed it. And that is going to lead to the conclusion of this stream. Again, folks, I want to reiterate, like I did in the beginning of the stream, I will not be doing any streaming next week because I am going to be moving from one place to another, and it's going to take some time and for me to get my setup done again. So yes, there's going to be very little videos, if any, like maybe one or two that next week, and there's going to be no stream on Wednesday or Friday. I am going to take that week off, even if I am done moving, so that I can kind of acclimate to where I'm living then. So yes, with that being said, I just wanted to let you all know I will be active the following week with another possible mystery movie review. It all depends on what my life is going to be like or in that living situation. I only started doing the mystery movie reviews while I've been down helping my aunt, so I'm going to be living in a newer place, helping out at that place too. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to have the ability to do more mystery reviews. This very well might be the end of them, but if not, I'll let you all know. But yeah, folks, that is going to be today's review. Don't unsub for my channel if I'm not very active next week. I just have to get stuff done. I have to focus on getting my things put away, set up, and reacclimated into a new home. So yes, with that being said, thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching this video and tuning in. One thing that I always did think before I do about this video is the Three Musketeers Disney one. There's another movie that I thought would actually be a very good sequel to this movie, even though it's not a sequel to it. It's The Man in the Iron Mask with Leo DiCaprio and others, John Malkovich and others, who I thought did a very good job years later as the characters. And I thought that would actually be a very worthy sequel to this movie with a more serious tone and whatnot. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there before I end this one. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Mara, Biggles, Kamen Rider, Netcat, who else? Phil, Blake, thank you all for tuning in. This was a blast, folks. I really enjoyed this movie, and I highly recommend it to others. Now I am going to try tagging Shad on Twitter to see if he'll actually give his thoughts on this movie and the sword play and whatnot. Anyway, folks, if you do catch this on the replay, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of this movie? Did you like it? Did you not? Do you think that this movie should be a formula that is used today, in today's time, in film and whatnot, especially Disney film? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.